Dr. Elena Vasquez knelt in the dirt, her brush moving carefully over the strange metal fragment. The Egyptian sun beat down on her back as she worked, but she barely noticed the heat. This piece was unlike anything she had ever seen before. The fragment was small, no bigger than her thumb, but it gleamed with an inner light that seemed impossible. The metal looked ancient, older than the pyramids that rose in the distance, yet it showed no signs of rust or wear. Strange symbols covered its surface, symbols that made her eyes water when she looked at them too long. "Professor, you need to see this," called James, her graduate student. He was working 20 feet away, digging in what used to be a simple farming village from 3,000 years ago. But there was nothing simple about what they were finding. Elena stood up, her knees creaking. At 45, she was getting too old to spend long hours kneeling in excavation sites. She walked over to where James was pointing at another fragment, this one larger and shaped like part of a tool. "That makes 12, she said, wiping sweat from her forehead. 12 fragments in 12 different dig sites across 6 continents, all in settlements that date to different time periods, all made from the same impossible metal. The fragments had been turning up for 3 years now, always in human settlements, always buried deep, always seemingly designed to work with whatever primitive technology the humans of that time would have had. But the metal itself was far beyond anything humans could have made. Even today, Elena had published papers about the finds, but most of her colleagues thought she was seeing patterns where none existed. They said she was reading too much into coincidental discoveries. But Elena knew better. Someone had been helping humans for a very long time. Someone who wanted to remain hidden far beneath the busy streets of New York City, in tunnels that no human map showed. Shenter felt the familiar ache in her chest. The pain had grown stronger over the past few decades as more of her people faded away. The Githara were dying, and she could do nothing to stop it. She moved through the underground chambers where her people lived, hidden from the humans above. The Githara were small by human standards, barely reaching 4 feet in height, with thin limbs and large eyes that seemed to hold the weight of centuries. Their skin had a slight blue tint, and when they moved, they seemed to flow like water. The chamber walls were covered with displays showing the world above. Thousands of screens monitored human cities, human activities, human lives. For over 10,000 years, the Githara had watched and protected the species that lived above them. "The fragments have been discovered," reported Veloth, her second in command. His voice carried the musical quality that all Githara possessed, but Elena could hear the exhaustion in it. "The human archaeologist is connecting them. She is close to understanding." Shenter nodded. They had known this day would come. The gifts they had left for humanity over the millennia were meant to be found eventually. Each fragment contained technology that had helped humans advance, but only when they were ready for it. The fragment in Egypt had helped ancient farmers develop better irrigation. Others had guided the development of medicine, metallurgy, and navigation. "Should we retrieve them?" asked Veloth. "No," Shenter said. "Let her find them. Let her understand. Perhaps it is time." The Githara had not always lived in hiding. Once, they had been a proud species with a beautiful homeworld called Kithara, which meant place of harmony in their ancient language. They had developed technology based on emotional resonance, powered by the collective feelings of their people. Their world had been peaceful for thousands of years, but space was not peaceful. A cosmic phenomenon called the void wave had swept through their region of the galaxy, draining the life from everything it touched. The Githara had seen it coming and tried to flee, but they were too few and too scattered to save everyone. Most of their people had died with their world. The survivors had wandered space for generations before finding Earth. The young human species had fascinated them. Unlike other intelligent species they had encountered, humans seemed to possess an incredible capacity for both growth and emotional depth. The Cathara could sense the potential in them, but the Cathara had also sensed something else in humans, a tendency towards self-destruction. Wars, hatred, fear. These emotions hit the empathic Cathara like physical blows. Yet beneath it all, they felt something that gave them hope. Humans could change. Humans could grow beyond their worst impulses. So the Cathara had made a choice. Instead of settling on some distant world, they would stay near Earth and help humanity reach its potential. They would guide the species from the shadows, never revealing themselves, never controlling, just helping. It had cost them dearly. Many Cathara had died powering the devices that protected Earth from cosmic threats. Others had sacrificed themselves to create the fragments that would guide human development. Each generation of Cathara was smaller than the last. Shenter felt another death through their connection. Morden, one of the elders, had just faded away in the Antarctic facility. He had been maintaining the shield generators that protected Earth from cosmic radiation. Now someone else would have to take his place, shortening their own life in the process. Above ground, Elena was making a connection she had not expected. The laboratory analysis of the fragments showed they all contained traces of the same energy signature. More importantly, this signature matched readings that deep space monitoring stations had been detecting for decades. Someone was actively protecting Earth from space. The fragments were not just ancient gifts. They were breadcrumbs leading to a much larger truth. Elena sat in her office, surrounded by photos of dig sites and test results. The pieces were finally coming together. An ancient civilization had been helping humanity for thousands of years. But why? And where were they now? She picked up her phone and called Captain Marcus Chun at the Earth Defense Coalition. If anyone would have data about mysterious energy signatures protecting Earth, it would be him. "Marcus," she said when he answered, "I need to meet with you. I think I found evidence of someone protecting our planet. Someone who's been doing it for a very long time." In the depths beneath the city, Shenter felt the stirring of something she had not experienced in centuries. Hope, perhaps. Humanity was finally ready to know the truth. Perhaps it was time to step out of the shadows, but she also felt fear. When humans learned the truth, would they be grateful? Or would they see the Cathara as threats to be eliminated or resources to be exploited? The future of both species might depend on the answer to that question. Captain Marcus Chun stood on the observation deck of the orbital monitoring station, watching Earth turn slowly below him. The blue and green planet looked peaceful from this distance, but Marcus knew better. His job was to track everything that came near Earth. Asteroids, comets, space debris, and anything else that might pose a threat. For the past 5 years, he had been noticing something strange in the data. Objects that should have hit Earth were mysteriously changing course. Asteroids that were on collision paths would suddenly shift direction as if pushed by an invisible hand. At first, he thought it was natural gravitational effects, but the pattern was too consistent, too precise. "Sir, we have another anomaly," reported Lieutenant Sarapart, his communications officer. "The asteroid we've been tracking just altered course again. Same energy signature as before." Marcus nodded. There it was again. That strange energy reading that appeared whenever a space object changed direction away from Earth. He had reported it to his superiors, but they told him to focus on real threats, not mysterious readings that might be equipment errors. But Marcus knew his equipment. This was not an error. Someone or something was protecting Earth, and they were doing it with technology far beyond human capabilities. Elena arrived at the station 3 days later, carrying a case full of fragment samples and data. Marcus had known her since their academy days, and he trusted her scientific instincts. When she said she had found evidence of ancient protectors, he listened. "Look at this," Elena said, spreading photos across his desk. Each photo showed a different fragment from a different time period and location. These were found in human settlements spanning 8,000 years. But they're all made from the same material. Marcus studied the photos. The fragments look like pieces of advanced technology, but designed to blend with much simpler tools. What do? Each one helped humans in some specific way, Elena explained. This one from ancient Mesopotamia helped develop better farming tools. This one from medieval Europe contains knowledge that led to advances in medicine. This one from ancient China helped with navigation. She pulled out her tablet and showed him a timeline. Marcus, someone has been dropping helpful technology for humans to find, but only when we were ready for it. Never too advanced, never too obvious. Always just enough to help us take the next step forward. Marcus felt a chill. He called up his own data on the computer. Elena, look at this. These energy signatures I've been tracking. They go back decades. Maybe longer. The data showed a clear pattern. Whenever a large asteroid or comet was heading toward Earth, the mysterious energy would appear and deflect it. Not destroy it, deflect it. As if someone was carefully redirecting threats away from the planet without causing unnecessary damage. How many times? Elena asked, studying the data. In the last 50 years alone? At least 47 major deflections. Objects big enough to cause serious damage, maybe even mass extinctions. All redirected at the last possible moment. Elena sat back in a chair. Someone's been protecting us for thousands of years. The fragments prove they were helping our development. Your data proves they're still protecting us from space threats. But who are they? And why stay hidden? Below the surface of the Earth, Shenter was remembering. The Cathara recorded their history not in books or computers, but in shared memories that passed from one generation to the next. As she touched the memory crystal in their main chamber, images flowed through her mind. She saw the Great Plague that would have wiped out most of humanity in the 14th century. The Cathara had left medical knowledge in monasteries across Europe, disguised as translations of ancient texts. The humans who found these texts thought they were discovering old remedies, but they were actually following carefully designed treatments that the Cathara had developed. She saw the asteroid that would have ended human civilization in 1908. It had been massive, large enough to destroy entire continents. The Cathara had sacrificed 12 of their people to power a deflection system, changing the asteroid's path so it would hit empty forest in Siberia instead of populated areas. Humans had called it the Tunguska event, never knowing how close they had come to extinction. She saw the countless small interventions. Cathara agents leaving better seed varieties where human farmers would find them. Mathematical knowledge left in libraries to advance human science. Even inspiration given to human inventors and artists through careful emotional manipulation, not control, but gentle guidance that helped humans reach their own potential. The Cathar philosophy was called the gentle current. Like a river slowly wearing away stone, they believed in gradual, natural change. They never forced advancement on humans, never made decisions for them. They simply removed obstacles and provided opportunities. The choice to use these gifts always remained with humanity, but each intervention cost them. Cathara technology was powered by life force, their own life force. Every time they deflected an asteroid, every time they left a helpful fragment, some of their people grew weaker. Many died young, having given their energy to protect a species that did not even know they existed. Shenter moved through the memory of the Great War that humans called World War II. The Cathara had felt the rage and hatred washing across the planet like a psychic storm. Many of her people had nearly died from the emotional overload. But they had also felt something else, the courage of humans who stood against evil, the compassion of those who helped others at great personal cost. the determination to build something better from the ashes of destruction. That was when the Cathara knew they had chosen correctly. Humans were capable of terrible things, but they were also capable of incredible growth. Given the chance, they would choose hope over fear, love over hate, growth over destruction. The memory crystal showed her the most recent interventions. Just last year, the Cathara had detected a gamma-ray burst from a distant star that would have sterilized all life on Earth. 23. Cathara had died creating a shield to protect the planet. The humans never knew how close they had come to complete extinction. Shentar felt the weight of all those sacrifices. Her people were now down to fewer than 3,000 individuals. At the current rate of loss, they would be extinct within a century. But Earth would survive. Humanity would continue to grow and explore the stars. Perhaps that was enough. Perhaps that was the legacy the Cathar were meant to leave. A species they had helped reach its potential, even at the cost of their own survival. But as she felt Elena and Marcus drawing closer to the truth, Shentar wondered if there might be another path. What would humans do when they learned the truth? Would they understand the magnitude of the gift they had been given? And if they did understand, what would they do about it? The answers to those questions would determine the future of both species. Shentar could only hope that the trust the Cathara had placed in humanity's potential for growth and compassion had not been misplaced. In the orbital station above, Elena and Marcus were reaching the same conclusion. The evidence was overwhelming. Someone had been protecting and guiding humanity for millennia, and they were still out there. "We need to find them," Elena said. "We need to thank them." But both of them wondered, would they want to be found? And what would humanity owe to beings who had sacrificed so much for a species that had never even known they existed? The Antarctic wind howled across the ice as Elena and Marcus followed the energy readings deeper into the frozen wasteland. 3 weeks of investigation had led them here, to coordinates that showed the strongest concentration of the mysterious energy signatures. "The readings are off the charts," Marcus said, checking his scanner. "Whatever's down here, it's been running continuously for decades." Elena pulled her hood tighter against the cold. "The ice core samples we took show unusual heat patterns going back centuries. Something's been warming this area from below." Their expedition team had set up base camp 5 miles away. But Elena and Marcus had continued alone when the energy readings became too strong for their equipment to handle safely. Now they stood at the edge of what looked like a simple ice field. But their scanners showed massive structures hidden far beneath the surface. "There," Elena pointed to a section of ice that looked slightly different from the rest. "The thermal imaging shows warmth coming from that area." They approached carefully, and Marcus knelt to examine the ice. "Elena, this isn't natural ice formation. Look at the patterns. This is almost like camouflage." As if responding to his words, the ice began to shimmer and fade, revealing a hidden entrance that led down into the earth. Warm air rose from the opening, carrying with it a sound like musical humming. "Should we call for backup?" Marcus asked, his hand moving instinctively to his sidearm. Elena was already moving toward the entrance. "If they wanted to hurt us, they've had thousands of years to do it. Come on." The tunnel sloped gently downward, its walls glowing with the same inner light they had seen in the fragments. The humming grew stronger as they descended, and Elena realized it was not mechanical. It sounded organic, almost like singing. After what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes, the tunnel opened into a vast chamber. Both humans stopped and stared in wonder. The chamber was enormous, easily the size of a football stadium, filled with structures that seemed to grow from the walls like crystalline trees. Lights pulsed through the crystal formations in patterns that reminded Elena of heartbeats or breathing. The air was warm and humid, and she could smell something like flowers, though no flowers could possibly grow so deep underground. But it was not the chamber itself that made them both gasp. It was the beings moving through it. They were small and graceful, with thin limbs and large eyes that reflected the crystal light. Their skin had a pale blue tint, and when they moved, they seemed to flow like dancers. There were dozens of them, working at various crystalline structures throughout the chamber. "Oh my God," Elena whispered. "They're beautiful." One of the beings turned toward them, and Elena felt something touch her mind. Not invasive, but gentle, like a warm hand on her shoulder. The being approached slowly, and Elena could see exhaustion in its large eyes. The being was female. Elena somehow knew, though she could not say how. When she spoke, her voice had a musical quality that made the air itself seem to vibrate with harmony. "You are the ones who have been following the fragments," the being said. And Elena was surprised to understand her perfectly, though she was certain the words were not in any human language. "You're the ones who've been protecting us," Marcus said, his voice full of awe. The being nodded sadly. "I am Shentar. We are the Cathara, and we are dying." She gestured for them to follow her deeper into the chamber. As they walked, Elena saw more of the Cathara, but something was wrong. Many of them moved slowly, as if carrying great burdens. Some were lying still on crystal platforms, their bodies glowing faintly, but growing dimmer even as she watched. "We have protected your world for 10,000 of your years," Shentar explained as they walked. "We have guided your growth, deflected cosmic threats, helped you avoid extinction dozens of times. But each intervention costs us. We power our technology with our own life force." They reached the center of the chamber, where a massive crystal structure rose from the floor like a great tree. It pulsed with intense light, and Elena could feel heat radiating from it. Around its base, a dozen Cathara lay on platforms, their bodies glowing as they fed energy into the structure. "What is this?" Elena asked. "A shield generator," Shentar replied. 3 of your days ago, we detected a gamma-ray burst from a star 47 light-years away. The radiation will reach Earth in 6 hours. Without this shield, all life on your planet will be sterilized." Elena felt her blood turn cold. "A gamma-ray burst? We didn't detect anything. Your technology is not advanced enough yet. But we have been watching the skies for longer than your species has existed." Shentar moved to one of the platforms where a Cathara male lay, his glow growing steadily weaker. "Morden has been powering this shield for 72 hours. He will not survive much longer." Marcus stepped forward. "How can we help?" "There must be something we can do." Shentar looked at him with surprise. "Help? We did not reveal ourselves seeking help. We expected fear or greed. Your species has shown both in abundance." "You've been dying to protect us," Elena said, tears flowing down her cheeks. "How could we feel anything but gratitude?" Shentar studied both humans carefully. Through her empathic abilities, she could sense their emotions, genuine shock, overwhelming gratitude, and something else, determination. These humans were already thinking about how to repay a debt they had never known they owed. "Our homeworld was destroyed long ago," Shentar said. "We came to Earth as refugees, planning to stay only briefly. But we sensed something in your species, a potential for growth that fascinated us. So we chose to help you reach that potential, even at great cost to ourselves." She led them to another section of the chamber, where crystal displays showed images from throughout human history. Elena saw the deflected asteroids, the carefully placed knowledge, the hidden interventions that had saved humanity countless times. "We followed a philosophy we called a gentle current," Shentar explained. "We never controlled, never forced. We simply removed obstacles and provided opportunities. The choice to use our gifts was always yours." Marcus watched the displays showing space threats being deflected. "How many of you have died protecting us?" "In the past millennium alone?" Nearly 8,000. We are now fewer than 3,000. Shenter's voice carried centuries of sadness. At this rate, we will be extinct within your century. But Earth will survive. Humanity will reach the stars. Perhaps that is legacy enough. Elena felt a surge of emotion that surprised her with its intensity. No, that's not enough. You can't just sacrifice yourselves for us and expect us to accept it. What choice do we have? Shenter asked. This is what we chose. This is our purpose. Your purpose is to live, Marcus said firmly. To be our partners, not our silent guardians. We need to find another way. Shenter stared at both humans. In all their thousands of years of observation, the Cathara had never expected this reaction. They had saved humanity dozens of times, but humanity had never known to be grateful. Now, faced with the truth, these humans were not thinking about what they could take from the Cathara, but about what they could give back. You would help us? Shenter asked. Even though we deceived you? Even though we manipulated your development from the shadows? Elena laughed, wiping tears from her eyes. Deceived us? You saved us. You gave us the chance to become who we are. How is that deception? At that moment, an alarm began to sound throughout the chamber. The crystal displays flashed red, and Shenter's face went pale. The gamma ray burst is intensified, she said. Morden cannot maintain the shield alone. We need more power. Without hesitation, 2 more Cathara moved to the platforms around the great crystal, adding their life force to the shield. Elena watched in horror as their glows began to dim. There has to be another way, she said desperately. Some other source of power. Shenter shook her head sadly. Our technology requires empathic resonance. Only Cathara can power it. And we are so few. But Elena was thinking, her mind racing through everything she had learned about the Cathara and their technology. An idea was forming, wild and impossible, but maybe their only hope. What if you're wrong? She said, what if humans could learn to power your technology? What if the partnership could work both ways? Shenter stared at her. Impossible. Your species lacks the empathic abilities necessary. Maybe, Elena said, or maybe we just need to learn how to use abilities we already have. You said yourself that you sense potential in us. Maybe it's time to find out what that potential really is. The shield crystal pulsed desperately as another Cathara began to fade. Time was running out for both species. The emergency session of the Global Council took place just 48 hours after Elena and Marcus returned from Antarctica. The Great Assembly Hall in Geneva had never seen anything like this. Representatives from every nation on Earth, listening to a story that would change everything they thought they knew about human history. Elena stood at the central podium, displaying images of the Cathara chamber and the beings who lived there. The hall was completely silent as she spoke, but she could feel the tension building like electricity in the air. For 10,000 years, she concluded, the Cathara have been protecting us, guiding us, dying for us. They saved our species from extinction at least 47 times in the past century alone, and we never knew they existed. Secretary General Liu Wei was the first to speak. Dr. Vasquez, you're asking us to believe that aliens have been living on Earth for millennia, secretly manipulating human development? Not manipulating, Elena said firmly. Helping. There's a difference. They never controlled our choices. They just removed obstacles and provided opportunities. General Harrison from the United States military leaned forward. But they could have controlled us. If they have this kind of technology, they could have conquered Earth easily. Why didn't they? Because that's not who they are, Marcus answered from his seat at the expert panel. Their entire philosophy is based on gentle guidance, not control. They believe in our potential, even when we don't believe in it ourselves. The Chinese representative, Minister Chen, raised her hand. What do they want from us now? If they revealed themselves, they must want something. Elena felt her heart sink. Even presented with evidence of incredible sacrifice and generosity, the first human instinct was suspicion. They don't want anything. They're dying. They revealed themselves because we discovered them, not because they want something from us. But they have technology, insisted the Russian delegate. Advanced technology that could solve our energy problems, cure diseases, help us reach the stars faster. Surely they would share it. At what cost? Elena shot back. These beings have been giving their lives for us for 10,000 years. How much more should we ask of them? The debate that followed went on for hours. Elena watched in growing dismay as the representatives split into predictable factions. Some, led by General Harrison, wanted to study Kithara technology and potentially integrate it into human military systems. Others, led by Minister Chun, saw opportunities for economic advancement. A few worried about the implications of alien contact on Earth's religions and cultures. Only a small group, led by Secretary General Liu and supported by Elena's data, argued that humanity's priority should be helping the Kithara rather than exploiting them. Dr. Robert Sterling, a xenobiologist who had flown in from London, raised a particularly troubling question. How do we know they're telling the truth? How do we know this isn't some elaborate deception? Maybe they caused the problems they claim to have solved. Elena felt anger rising in her chest. Because I've seen them dying to protect us. I watched them sacrifice themselves to maintain a shield that saved all life on Earth from a gamma ray burst. No one would fake that level of sacrifice. But she could see the doubt in many faces around the room. Humans had been betrayed too many times in their history to trust easily, even when presented with overwhelming evidence of good intentions. The session was interrupted by an urgent message from Captain Marcus. His orbital monitors had detected another cosmic threat, a massive asteroid that would impact Earth in 6 months. Without Kithara intervention, it would cause a global extinction event. The Kithara are already working on deflecting it, Marcus reported via video link. But their numbers are so reduced that they may not have enough life force to power the deflection systems. They estimate they'll lose at least 50 more people just to save us from this one threat. The hall fell silent. The reality of what the Kithara faced was becoming clear to everyone. They were not just alien visitors sharing technology. They were a dying species sacrificing themselves to keep humanity alive. During the recess, Elena found herself in a heated discussion with several delegates in the corridor outside the assembly hall. You're being naive, Dr. Vasquez, General Harrison said bluntly. These aliens have been manipulating our development for thousands of years. How do we know what our civilization would have become without their interference? Dead, Elena replied. Our civilization would have been dead dozens of times. Over. But maybe we would have developed our own solutions, insisted Dr. Sterling. Maybe we would have become stronger by facing these challenges ourselves. Elena stared at him in disbelief. You think humanity would have been better off if we'd been wiped out by asteroids or plagues? You think struggling alone is somehow more noble than accepting help from beings who asked nothing in return? Minister Chun joined the discussion. The question is not whether we should be grateful, but what we do now. We have access to beings with incredible technology. It would be irresponsible not to study and learn from them. Study them? Elena's voice rose. These aren't laboratory specimens. They're people. They're a dying species that has sacrificed everything for us. Exactly, General Harrison said. A dying species with technology we need. If they're going to become extinct anyway, shouldn't we preserve their knowledge for the benefit of humanity? Elena felt sick. This was exactly what Shenter had feared would happen. Humans learning about the Kithara and seeing them as resources to be exploited rather than people to be saved. When the session resumed, Elena made one final plea. Ladies and gentlemen, we stand at a crossroads. For the first time in our history, we have the chance to repay a debt of incredible magnitude. These beings saved us countless times, asking nothing in return. Now they need our help. The question is not what we can gain from them, but what we can give back. Secretary General Liu stood to address the assembly. Dr. Vasquez is right. This is not about what we can take from the Cathara, but about what we owe them. I propose we establish a joint human Cathara council to find ways to help them survive. The debate continued, but Elena could see that humanity remained divided. Some supported helping the Cathara out of genuine gratitude. Others saw opportunities for advancement. A disturbing number seemed to view the Cathara as resources to be managed rather than people to be saved. That evening, Elena returned to Antarctica to share the results with Shentar. She found the Cathara leader in the chamber where several more of her people lay dying. Their life force spent maintaining Earth's defenses. How did they react? Shentar asked, though Elena suspected she already knew from the sadness in her large eyes. Some want to help you. Others want to use you. Many don't trust you despite everything you've done for us. Elena sat down heavily on one of the crystal formations. I'm sorry. I hoped humanity would be better than this. Shentar was quiet for a long moment. We knew this might happen. Your species has many wonderful qualities, but trust does not come easily to you. Perhaps it is better this way. Perhaps it is better that we fade quietly, as we always planned. No, Elena said firmly. It's not better. You deserve to live. You deserve to see the universe you helped preserve. She looked around at the dying Cathara. There has to be another way. Some solution we haven't thought of. Shentar moved to a memory crystal and touched it gently. There is something we have not told you. A truth we hope never to reveal. The crystal began to glow, showing images Elena had not seen before. She watched as the Cathara homeworld died, not from a natural cosmic event, but from the psychic weight of the galaxy's suffering. The empathic Cathara had become overwhelmed by the emotional pain of countless wars, genocides, and tragedies across the stars. We did not flee our world because of the void wave, Shentar said quietly. We fled because we could no longer bear the emotional darkness of the universe. Our empathic abilities, which once brought us such joy, became a curse. We felt every death, every moment of suffering, across thousands of light years. Elena stared at the crystal in shock. You're dying because you feel too much. Yes, Earth was supposed to be a refuge, a quiet world where we could recover. But even here, the psychic weight grows heavier each year. We feel the suffering of every conflict, every tragedy, every moment of pain across your world and beyond. We are drowning in the darkness we sense everywhere. Elena felt tears flowing down her cheeks. That's why you help us. You're trying to reduce the suffering you feel. In part, yes, but also because we see something in humans that gives us hope. Your species feels just as much pain as we do, but somehow you process it differently. You find ways to heal from trauma, to grow stronger from suffering, to maintain hope in the face of despair. Elena stood up slowly, an idea forming in her mind. Shentar, what if that's the answer? What if the solution isn't just saving your people, but learning from each other? What if humans could somehow help you process the emotional darkness, the way you've helped us survive physical threats? Shentar looked at her with something that might have been hope. You think humans could shield us from psychic pain, the way we've shielded you from cosmic threats? I don't know, Elena said honestly, but I think it's worth finding out. Because if we can figure this out, it won't just save your people. 6 months later, Elena stood in a laboratory that had not existed before the revelation. The International Cathara Research Center had been built in record time. funded by nations that finally understood what humanity owed to its silent guardians. But this was not a facility for studying the Cathara. It was a place where both species worked together to find a solution. Neither could achieve alone. Dr. Sarah Chun, a neuroscientist who had volunteered for the project, was connected to a specially designed interface that linked her mind to a Cathara named Veloth. Both wore headsets that glowed with the same inner light as Cathara technology, but these devices were powered by human emotional energy rather than Cathara life force. "How do you feel?" Elena asked Sarah through the intercom. "Strange," Sarah replied, her voice dreamy. "I can feel his emotions, but also, more than that, it's like I'm experiencing the universe through completely different senses." Veloth, who had volunteered to be the first Cathara to attempt the connection, spoke in his musical voice. "She is filtering the darkness. I can sense the cosmic suffering as I always have, but now it feels manageable, distant, like hearing thunder from far away instead of standing in the lightning." Elena felt her heart racing. After months of research and experimentation, they had finally found something that worked. The solution had come from studying human responses to trauma and stress. While the Cathara absorbed emotional pain directly and were overwhelmed by it, humans had evolved complex mechanisms for processing and recovering from psychological damage. The breakthrough had happened when they realized that human resilience was not just individual, it was collective. Humans drew strength from each other, shared burdens, and found ways to transform suffering into growth. They could do the same for the Cathara. "The resonance network is stable," reported Dr. Kim, monitoring the equipment. "Sarah's brain patterns are effectively creating a buffer between Veloth's empathic abilities and the cosmic emotional background. He's receiving only filtered signals." Marcus, now serving as military liaison to the project, watched the monitors carefully. "And Sarah? No negative effects?" "Actually, the opposite," Dr. Chun said, checking her medical scanners. "Her stress hormones are down. Her brain activity shows increased creativity and emotional balance. It's like the connection is beneficial for both of them." Elena allowed herself to hope. If this worked, if they could create a permanent resonance network, the Cathara could survive. More than survive. They could thrive, sharing their wisdom and technology freely, while humans provided the emotional resilience they needed to face the universe's darkness. The first test lasted 3 hours, and both participants emerged energized rather than drained. Word spread quickly through the Cathara communities hidden around the world. For the first time in centuries, they had hope for survival. But the real test came 2 weeks later, when another cosmic threat appeared. A massive solar flare, large enough to destroy Earth's atmosphere, was detected racing toward the planet. In the past, dozens of Cathara would have died creating shields to protect Earth. Now, they had another option. The emergency response was unlike anything in human history. Volunteers from around the world arrived at resonance centers that had been hastily constructed on every continent. Scientists, teachers, artists, soldiers, doctors, people from every walk of life connected to the network, offering their emotional strength to support the Cathara, who would deflect the solar flare. Elena stood in the main control center, watching as thousands of human minds linked with hundreds of Cathara across the globe. The displays showed a web of connections spanning the planet, pulsing with shared energy and purpose. "Network is stable," reported Dr. Kim. "Human participants are handling the psychic load beautifully. The Cathara report they can focus entirely on the technical aspects of the deflection without being overwhelmed by emotional feedback." Shenter, connected to the network herself, was coordinating the planetary defense from the Antarctic facility. But for the first time in her long life, she was not alone in carrying the burden. Thousands of human minds supported her, their emotional resilience creating a foundation that allowed her people to work without the fear of psychic overload. Deflection shields at maximum power, she reported. Elena, your people are remarkable. I can feel their courage, their determination to protect not just themselves, but us as well. It is overwhelming in the best possible way. The solar flare struck the shields and was diverted safely around Earth. Not a single Cathara died in the process. For the first time in millennia, the Cathara had defended a world without sacrificing their lives to do it. In the days that followed, the partnership deepened rapidly. The resonance network, designed as an emergency measure, became permanent. Humans and Cathara worked together in ways that neither species had imagined possible. Cathara technology advanced by leaps and bounds when powered by human emotional energy instead of life force. Human science accelerated dramatically with access to Cathara, knowledge, and perspective. But more than the technological benefits, both species found something they had not expected: companionship. The empathic links created bonds that transcended the barriers between species. Humans experienced the universe through Cathara senses, feeling the harmony that connected all living things. Cathara experienced human emotions directly, understanding for the first time the incredible resilience that had drawn them to Earth in the first place. Elena found herself working closely with Shentar. Their minds often linked through the resonance network. Through that connection, she experienced the full weight of what the Cathara had sacrificed for humanity, but also their joy at finally finding true partners among the stars. We spent so long believing we had to choose between saving you and saving ourselves, Shentar said one evening as they watched the sunset from the Antarctic facility. We never imagined that saving each other could be the same thing. The first joint colonization mission launched 1 year after the revelation. The starship New Dawn carried both human and Cathara crews, exploring a distant system where they planned to establish the first truly integrated colony. The ship itself was a marvel of combined technology, Cathara materials and knowledge, shaped by human innovation and determination. Elena stood on the bridge of the New Dawn, wearing the captain's insignia of the new United Earth Cathara fleet. Beside her, Shentar served as science officer, her empathic abilities helping the crew navigate not just the physical challenges of space travel, but the emotional ones as well. Long-range sensors are detecting 12 planets in the target system, reported the navigation officer, a young human named David Park, who had learned to interface directly with Cathara technology through the resonance network. 3. Are in the habitable zone, added Veloth from his position at the science station. Initial scans suggest one has conditions suitable for both human and Cathara life. Elena smiled, feeling the shared excitement of the mixed crew through the ship's resonance network. Humans who had dreamed of reaching the stars for generations were finally doing so, but they were not going alone. They carried with them the wisdom and compassion of a species that had sacrificed everything for strangers. And they offered in return their own unique gifts: resilience, determination, and the ability to find hope in the darkest circumstances. Set course for the habitable world, Elena ordered. Let's go build something new together. As the New Dawn accelerated toward its destination, Elena felt a deep sense of completion. Humanity had finally learned the truth about their silent guardians and had found a way to repay a debt that could never really be repaid. But more than that, they had created something that neither species could have achieved alone: a true partnership based on mutual support and shared dreams. The Cathara had helped humanity in silence for 10,000 years, asking nothing in return. Now humanity was repaying them not just with gratitude, but with something far more valuable: the promise that neither species would ever have to face the universe alone again. Through the resonance network that connected every person on both ships, Elena felt Shentar's thoughts blend with her own. Together, they looked out at the stars and saw not a cold, hostile universe, but infinite possibilities for growth, exploration, and connection. The age of silent guardians was over. The age of true partners had begun. Far behind them, Earth turned peacefully in space, protected now not by the sacrifice of hidden guardians, but by the combined strength of two species who had learned that the greatest power in the universe was not technology or weapons, but the simple willingness to help each other grow. In the end, humanity had discovered something the Cathara had known all along. The universe was vast and often dark, but it was never empty as long as there were those willing to share its light with others. The gentle current that the Cathara had followed for so long now carried both species forward together, toward whatever wonders and challenges awaited them among the stars.